Okay, it's live. Let me share this. Okay, all right, cool. We are live.
All right, cool. Awesome. Duel 1 and then Duel 2. Where do you want to start? You want to look at value? You want to look at chalk? You want to look at GPP? You want to think who has... I say we start with who do you think leads some laps? Because probably Bowman will probably lead laps, but then he's going to drop to the back. So let's not just say going to lead laps. We need someone to lead laps. You probably went over this in your video. They got to lead laps. They've got to go forward, and they've got to pretty much finish inside the top 8, I think is a pretty good structure. If you've got a guy who doesn't go forward, I think it was one time in the last 8 or 10 duels that someone went backwards. Everyone goes forward. Everyone, for the most part, unless they're a value, finishes inside the top 7. I mean, there's a little bit of flexibility there with the cheaper drivers, and then you need a guy that's going to lead laps. So let's start with in Duel 1, who do you can probably see on the screen, obviously, the guys that I'm kind of hovering around. I might expand that, might shrink that. I'm going with Almirola, Stenhouse, Hamlin, Logano. Where do you stand on possible lap leaders and also like a top 3 finisher?
I have Stenhouse project lead laps, Hamlin projected, and Logano projected. I have Eric Almirola leading a few. I have that's really about it. I have Alex Bowman to lead a few, but I don't think he's going to be usable because I think he's going to drop through the back. If anything, he leads like right off the bat. But primarily it's Stenhouse, Hamlin, and Joey Logano as my lap leaders.
How much do you think Logano? You think Logano works his way up there pretty quickly, or it takes a little bit of time?
I think we should see Logano up there in like lap 3 or 4. I think he flies through this field.
I guess he's not that far. He's only 6 rows back, right? Or so.
Yeah.
In this field, it's like, oh, he's halfway in the back. Yeah, but it's like a couple rows. It's not that far. You see, last year in the duel, he started 6th, and he didn't really seem to push it until after the first caution. Then he went for it, and that's when he wins the race. So let's see if anyone else like really pushed it from the beginning and jumped themselves up to the front. Clinton Boyer started 7th, and he took the lead pretty quickly, or not pretty quickly, about 20 laps in. You're not really seeing a lot of guys in that duel jumping all the way to the front. Let me look at another one here. Do you see anybody that really jumps up? Not really. Well, I guess you could say Michael McDowell. He went from 12th to 2nd. There might have been some pit cycling right there, or a caution maybe.
Something fishy happened there.
I think that's a pit cycle, actually. That's not a caution. So you'll see like the leaders all went back. You've got Byron, Johnson, Larson. These are all Chevys. So they probably did a little bit of a pit cycle, I would imagine. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and ACS
Reddick,
just brought up
Dillon. These are all Chevys right here.
Yeah, ACS just brought up that I think that he thinks manufacturers will work together, and I think it'll be real Ford heavy because I think the Penske camp is going to focus on getting Cindric into the race.
Yeah, that is. They're going to do. I mean, they have to pit once, so they will all pit together. That's where Blaney and Suarez got into that incident last year. And you're right, the manufacturers will work together. Which really, Cindric in Duel 1.
He's in Duel 1.
You guys are exactly right. The Ford alliance. You're going to have Almirola fighting for him. Stenhouse is, no, Stenhouse isn't anymore. They're at least Chevy with JTG. So Almirola, yikes! I don't see the Benedetto, Cindric, Logano, Ryan Newman. These really aren't the guy.
If
top
Logano
is not really there to carry him. Like Cole Custer. Great. Cole Custer's going to protect Austin Cindric. Thanks. I don't have a lot of confidence in Custer, Newman, DeBenedetto. I don't know about that. I know that they want to do, and they can work together maybe through a pit cycle. If they all pit at the same time, they can maybe make something happen. But I would have a lot more confidence if it was Kevin Harvick or some of the top tier Fords.
I see it going because it's going to be a boring race after the first 3 laps. They're going to get single file. If I have if I'm thinking of who's going to be leading that line when it gets there, I would think that it's going to be Logano or Almirola, or Logano's going to be up in the front. And if he gets to the front, that means that he either brought or worked with DiBenedetto and Cindric to get up there. I think Cindric's going to be running fifth the entire race.
I mean, you do have 5 Fords right there. That's pretty strong. And looks like Hamlin's kind of, I mean, he's got Christopher Bell. Toyota doesn't really have that strong of a presence in this race, do they? He's going to have to kind of do it on his own, which I think Hamlin will be fine doing. I think that hurts Bell more than anybody. Cindric does. I think the optimizer put him into the optimal lineup, and I'm pretty sure that Cindric's going to be a pretty popular play. I mean, I don't think it's just necessarily a narrative, but he has to race his way in. He has the best car. He's got a huge advantage over the other cars that he's racing against. Ty Dillon, and I would say don't count Ty Dillon out. I think he is definitely an underdog that's going to make some noise, but boy, that would be really, that means, so this is a situation in which I didn't really expect happening in my videos. Is if you have a wreck, it's typically going to be in the back. It's what we've grown accustomed to is it's like JJ Yaley and somebody battling in the back. You could somehow have a Ty Dillon, Austin Cindric battle up toward the front, which could wreak mayhem and wreak havoc. What do you think the likelihood of that's happening? Like 2 out of 10 races possible, maybe a 30% chance of a Cindric, Ty Dillon. Not necessarily that they wreck, but you've got Ty Dillon and Austin Cindric battling up in a place where they ought not be battling.
Yeah, I think it's certain. I know we're talking about Duel 1 here. I don't think it's as big of an issue as it is in Duel 2, where you have Gragson and Kaz Grala, as Gragson has nothing to lose. Like, he has to race his way in. I would see Gragson doing something stupid before I see Ty Dillon and Austin Cindric wrecking the field or doing something stupid. Now, adding on to that, I don't.
This Austin Cindric we're talking about here. In its first ever Cup race, I don't see Austin Cindric doing anything stupid. That's all he has done for most of his career, though.
Look, the
guy's a hothead.
He's following team orders, man. And team orders is don't do anything
stupid. If he has
protection,
he will be fine.
Yeah.
Ty Dillon is running for Gaunt, which has no affiliation whatsoever. There's no one helping him out.
Yeah, the only thing would be
which makes it even crazier, because if no one's helping him and he knows no one's got my back, well, then Ty Dillon can go out there and just say, to hell with everybody. I'm just going to do it on my own. Fine. If no one wants to help me, then get out of my way or pay the price. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near Ty Dillon. It could be crazy. I don't know if, and we've seen Duel 1 sometimes be absolutely nuts, and then everyone in Duel 2 is like, whoa, let's not do that.
Yeah, I mean, Ty Dillon, I don't see him, because he doesn't do anything. He doesn't make stupid moves. I know we're talking about people who could get wrecked. He's
never, ever been in this position. When has Ty Dillon been in a go or go home race? When has he not been sitting on granddaddy's money? I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. And I'm rooting for Ty Dillon this year. I'm really excited for him in the Xfinity Series. I'm excited for him in the Cup races that he'll be in, because this is like Hollywood Hogan Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon's a bad guy now. He is his brother has been protected his whole life. And meanwhile, Ty Dillon was forced to race for Geico. He was forced to race an RCR car that was underfunded. Now he doesn't even have a ride. He's the forgotten son. And so he's
the Michael Waltrip.
It is, and everyone loves him, and that's exactly what it is. And people love Michael Waltrip, and I think Ty Dillon could become one of those characters. He can either become like a true bad guy, or he can become, the Dillon that we all like sympathize for. So now that's probably going to mess up my DFS plays this year. I'm going to lose a bunch of money on Ty Dillon because of this newfound familiarity or whatever with his circumstance. Anyway, so leading laps. I like Stenhouse a lot. You like Stenhouse. I like Almirola, but I'm not sure I want to commit. I think you're kind of in the same spot. I feel really comfortable with Denny Hamlin, and I probably like Joey Logano a little bit more now. Just talking to you about, it's probably not really hard for him to get the 11th to the front row pretty quickly.
Here, let me look. I think, I have Logano in all my lineups. So he's the only driver that I have in every single lineup. So that's how much confidence I have in Logano.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot ignore the fact of his results have been awesome. We know that he hasn't been as good in recent plate races, but a lot of that, it's just luck. He's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I think he was leading whatever plate race that was in recent memory with like 10 laps, and he gets wrecked at the end. Well, if we take the wrecks out, then he wins every plate race, and that's what a duel is. It's a plate race without the wrecks, so you can't really beat Logano in this situation unless he just decides not to race. And it looked like they didn't really have fast cars because maybe they were pushing towards race setup anyway. Yeah, I'm starting to increase my not likeness, but my attraction to playing Joey Logano. I'm going to bump that up a little bit, and we'll dial Stenhouse down. But if Stenhouse gets to the front, he is not going to relinquish that lead. And if this thing goes single file, so if we're predicting that it goes single file pretty early, so whoever is the most aggressive out of the gate, I don't believe that Bowman is going to be that aggressive given his situation. We know at some point he's going to fall back. And probably the worst person, just put yourself in Bowman's shoes. I got to be safe. The last person that Bowman wants in his mirror is Stenhouse. And that's exactly who is lining up behind him. And so if I'm Bowman, I'm getting the hell out of there from the beginning. I'm just not even going to deal with this because Stenhouse, he wants to lead laps. He wants to get in the front. If I'm Bowman, it's like, all right, go ahead. Go on by. Wave him on by and save your car.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's why I'm not high on Bowman at all. And that's why I'm so high on Stenhouse, like we said earlier. One thing that I wanted to point out, and I'll answer the FanDuel question that we have in a second. One thing that I wanted to point out is after listening to content that was put out by others, a lot of people are focusing on how drivers have finished at plate tracks, which obviously you should, but they're not really focusing on how they finish in duels. Like duels and the actual plate races are completely different animals.
You can see that in the data here.
Yeah, and nobody's.
That's why I put this on here to give you an idea of they're different races.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons, and I put this in my article, which probably you didn't read, but it's free. But Denny Hamlin, the interesting thing, and I think this really illustrates the difference between a typical restrictor plate race and, even though there's no restrictor plates anymore, I'm just waiting for people to go, there's no plates anymore. I got it. I know, but I'm going to keep calling them restrictor plates. I don't care. But if you look at Hamlin's results, he's been awesome in the real races, whereas his dual races, it's just been okay. And you wonder, well, why is that? Well, my theory would be that the reason he's so good in the traditional plate races at Daytona and Talladega is that his wreck avoidance. He knows where to be, he knows when to push, and he knows how to avoid bad situations. That's his strength that elevates him above the field. Well, that skill or strength is meaningless in this single file lap turner. And so whatever advantages Denny Hamlin had, you kind of take those away. But if you don't treat these as two separate events, then you're going to go into this loving Denny Hamlin. And I think Denny Hamlin's fine, but I don't believe he's that much ahead of the field in this type of a race. And so I agree that you can look at these other plate tracks, but I would dial it down a notch and elevate or pump up way the dual races a little more.
I completely agree. Once again, related to FanDuel, I'm not really focusing on pricing a whole lot. I'm focusing mainly on place differential and FanDuel. So people like Truex, Keselowski, Logano, people starting, outside the top 10 in good equipment. That's mainly who I'm focusing for. So that should help you with that, because I'm not focusing on lap leaders like I am on DraftKings or anything like that. Let's see. So
lap leaders, and you're only going to need one. Now, if you end up with two, that's fine. But in reality, you have one, and then you have another guy that gets a top five. So yeah, you need a lap leader, and then all of your pretty much pay up options, I would say north of $7,000, got to be a top 7. If you go with a value guy, then yeah, he doesn't necessarily need a top 10, but you probably need 4 or 5 place differential points, and he needs to be pretty cheap. I think this is some pretty good parameters to work within. Like Ty Dillon doesn't necessarily have to get you a top 10. It's got to get kind of close, just depending on your build. But down here, Huff, Hill, Ware, Balicki, maybe I could could see someone going with Hill because he does have to race his way in and he has kind of moved forward. He might be able to work. Let's say if he gets to 16th place, that's a 6.2, which is the exact same as Ty Dillon getting into 12th. So you just kind of got to guess with yourself, which is more likely to happen, Ty Dillon to 12th or Timmy Hill to 16th. I might lean towards Ty Dillon in that situation, but there's enough of a conversation that I wouldn't remove Timmy Hill from the board. I would take Quinn Huff off and Cody Ware and Josh Bullock. These guys are not racing. I originally didn't really have a lot of love for Jamie McMurray because it's a Spire car, but it seems like looking at his practice speed data in the spreadsheet at racefortheprize.com, he seems to have, it seems to be and there might be some Chip Ganassi alliance there. I don't know what this chassis is or how much work's being shared. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know, and he was off pace in qualifying. Like, he was not anywhere near as fast as I thought he would be. So,
but when he ran with the pack, he was fine.
Well, I mean, everybody's fine when they're in the pack.
Not always. That's not always the case. I mean,
a chimp.
You're right. I mean, all of these cars should be able to run in the pack for 5 laps.
Yeah,
that's true. But
well, I mean, like McMurray, he shouldn't qualify where he was if he's in a top line JGR funded ride.
Not JGR.
Or not JGR.
CGR.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not saying that it's I'm saying that it might be a little better than your typical Spire junker.
Okay, yeah, I do agree with that. I just don't think it's...
And they might have a couple more sponsorship dollars, and obviously they've had a lot more time to prepare this car than a normal Spire work week. But my original thought was no, and I probably will lean that direction. Even at the price, he's probably too expensive. So I'm probably just wasting people's time talking about, it's Zevia, man. I like Zevia. It's good. It's kind of expensive, but I don't know. One of the few luxuries I allow myself.
Sure.
So what about Reddick and Jones? Are you on these guys?
Yeah, I really like Reddick and Jones. Let me answer this with how I think you should make lineups. I'm only making lineups with people that I think can finish inside the top 8 and at the very edge of that finish inside the top 10. And so by default, that leaves Jones and Reddick being the main guys I'm focusing on in Duel 1. I'm not very high on Ty Dillon at all. And so I've really moved any interest that I had from him to try and fit in Jones or Reddick in lineups, or even both of those guys.
So we have a question about I'm not really sure what you mean by too slow, but I mean, I'm assuming you're talking about these guys in the back. They have no reason to race. They're locked into the race, and they desperately can't afford to wreck the race cars. So there's just nothing for them to absolutely gain. There's no point. So they probably will end up a lap down or way away from everybody. So if I'm drawing a line, and you might even put McMurray in that spot too. But other than that, I think everybody is in play. And this Ty Dillon, Reddick, Jones, McDowell spot seems pretty good. So again, who do you like the most?
From just
Jones and Reddick.
Those 4. Between those two, probably who's more expensive? I forgot.
They're about the 8,000 to 8,200. Really, there's no difference price wise. Reddick obviously has a better car, but I don't think there's much of a difference in this type of racing. Jones, I would say, is probably the better plate racer. I think motivation wise, I don't know. I'm not going to try to pretend to get ahead of Tyler Reddick, but Jones will probably try to push it forward. We saw Bubba Wallace always getting top 5s in these dual races in that equipment. So they seem to want to go forward.
When I was messing around with lineups earlier this morning, going in instances, expecting people to use all their salary or paying up for a lot of the big guys. The reason I ask who's more expensive is I ran into ending up with Jones in a lot of lineups in the optimizer, getting 100% of the salary in because
how high do you have him? Top 5?
Who am I looking at? Jones again? Jones. I have him.
I'm probably a little too conservative, but
I have him finishing 10th. That's where I would expect.
10th, and he's still cracking into your optimizer?
Yeah.
I don't see it. How's that happening? That's barely a 5X.
I mean, like I said, he's at the very edge of finishing.
Yeah, you're right. So the way you've got him getting 41 points, and so when I look at the optimizer run, Custer made it, or Cindric made it at 40 points. So, but he's also a lot cheaper. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really crazy about these guys. I think they're in play. I just need to kind of go over them a little bit further. Honestly, I don't see why McDowell is any worse. I think McDowell has just as good of equipment for the specific race. I guess in the past he's never really gone that far forward, so maybe not McDowell. Yeah, you're probably
that's what got me off of McDowell. I don't like how he races in these, and obviously, like we said when we first started this, we're attacking this completely different to how you would an action
regular plate race. Yeah, like a regular plate race, McDowell has a legitimate shot as a top 10 or top 5 if he just survives because he wants to. When you look at these results, it just doesn't look like he wants to.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll verify that. Let's just look at his lap by lap and see, well, what did he do in the last dual race that he was in? Because if he just hangs in the back, then I would assume. So last year, he hung in the back. It's just a pit cycling thing here. Everyone pits. So he cycles up to second. And then after cycling in, he's back in 16th place. He gets as high as – so he is not pushing it by any means last year in the dual race. Yes, he does move forward. That's just a pit cycling situation. And then he's back in the teens. This does not look like anyone who has a sense of urgency or is desperate to get in the top 10. I would lean towards no way Jose on Michael McDowell based on that. Yeah, it's a small sample size, but not really. I mean, we just don't have the lap-by-lap data for the other races, but you're seeing in the other races he really didn't do anything either.
Mm-hmm. Moving over.
Larson for a top 10. Which one? So let's say I think they're both capable of a top 10, but following some of these rules that we've set in place, they've got to go forward. You look at all these optimal lineups from the last 6 or 7 dual races. Only one time was there a driver with negative place differential in the optimal lineup, and that was because I think they had some laps led. So I don't expect Larson to lead laps. I don't expect Custer to lead laps. Who has the better chance of going forward? It would be Custer. And I think he's going to give you some savings, a lot of savings. This is Larson's first freaking race in some time. And Custer, from the tweet that he wrote, he was excited about racing and going forward. So I like Custer going forward. I would take Custer.
Yeah, I like him. I like them both. And my way of looking at it, and I like Suarez actually.
We don't. What is this equipment? Which one? So it's
Trackhouse.
Yeah, no, it's Trackhouse. It's Justin Marks. It's
but it wasn't slow.
Mr. Worldwide.
Look,
I'm excited to have. I think this is going to be fun. What is the equipment though? I'm trying to remember. Did they buy the Levine family, or did all that stuff go to? I think they got the old Levine cars.
Well, that's
Bubba's got all new equipment. I'm guessing. I can't remember. They got something. Whatever.
I know LaJoy's in Europe. Anyway, I think that car has more than what we all think it does. Yet again, going back to looking at Q, and the reason I look at that is back when I was
go forward. He has to go forward.
I think he can hold on to where he's at. And I think he can finish.
That's so risky. That is so risky.
He
has to hold on for 60 laps, and we know how it yo-yos back and forth.
Yeah.
It can so easily go. He has no room, no margin for error. He can have a great race, and then just the other row gets a little bit of a run at the end, and he finishes in 7th place, and he's not in the optimal lineup.
Yeah, but I mean, 6,300, you can do so much with your lineups, and I'd much rather go there than if you're at that point in
Custer or Suarez, where would you go?
The Custer.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. How about Suarez or Newman?
Suarez.
It's the same play. Why wouldn't you play Newman? Newman and Custer are almost the same play. Newman, 3rd, 9th, 6th, 7th. We've got a 4 sample size of dual races.
Yeah.
And he's been a good plate racer. The only thing that hurts him is that he flies up in the air. Even though not only flies through the air, he still manages to get a top 10 somehow. But I don't know. I'm not betting against Newman.
I don't think I have Newman in a lineup. I think he's my one stand. Let me look, but I don't think I have. I just don't. I didn't like. Yeah, I don't have Newman. He's the only guy I don't have that we've talked about.
That is a game changer by Pitbull. He's got a couple of viral videos floating around on the internet that I will not repeat. He's the guy. I love the fact that he just doesn't care. He's one of those guys that he can't get canceled, and so he can say whatever he wants. God bless him. But if I'm a NASCAR suit or an executive and I'm seeing some of these Pitbull videos from his podcast appearances, they're like, oh God, what did we sign up for?
Yeah, what did we do?
I can't wait. I'm excited. So we've kind of narrowed it down. I think a lot of these guys here, 10th through 17th, are pretty popular. Would you agree?
Agreed. Very.
And I think DeBenedetta's fine. You want to kind of separate. Larson is, to me, a GPP play, just really trying to get unique. You're right that he could get up there in the top 3, and it can work. I think that's low probability. So I'm probably not going to do it, but I wouldn't fault anyone. Hamlin, even though we've said that he hasn't been great in these dual races, but again, let's not overreact to the 11th place finish, because if you look at the lap by lap data from that 11th place finish in that dual race, you'll see that 2 laps to go, he's in 5th place. And this is what I was talking about with that Suarez situation, the margin of error being so thin. You can probably get away with it with the Newman. You might still cash, you probably won't win. But with Suarez, if the yo-yo or the accordion goes the other direction, you're toast. I mean, you look, Denny Hamlin was in 5th place with 2 laps to go. He finishes in 11th. And so when he drops back, you get other guys who kind of slide forward a couple spots. Elliott was in 8th place. He flies back to 3rd. I think Stenhouse was another guy. He was in 1st, and he slides all the way back to 8th. So,
I don't think that's really people getting – Jim, I don't like you. I think that's more them racing for the end of that duel and them backing out trying to save the car and not really. I don't think they got past. I didn't go back and look, but I was.
But that's another situation. Like they feel like the heat's too much. I think a perfect example of that is if you look at Kyle Busch from is this duel 1 or duel 2. So Kyle Busch is doing fine. Look, he gets himself up here a little bit through cycling, though. He's in 14th. He's in 9th. I think it was Kyle Busch. He gets up here he's in 5th place. He's in 2nd place. And this looks like a situation where it's Kurt Busch. Where's Kyle Busch? There it is. Perfect. Kyle Busch. So Kyle Busch is in 2nd. He's in 1st. He's competing for this race up front where it's really, really safe. Then the caution happens. We restart, and Kyle's like, I'm good. When you look at his last, I don't know if a lot of people can see this because it's kind of smaller, racefortheprize.com, but you'll see he was a 2nd place driver up until lap 40 with the lead for some time. Up in lap 42, you get the caution, and he's like, that, and I could see people backing out and taking it easy. And if that's the case, then you probably want to lean towards place differential, which means not Suarez and some of the value guys, and maybe not play Hamlin. Stenhouse is not going to back. I don't think Stenhouse backed out here. I think other people, if we look at that first duel, if I had to guess, it's like people didn't want to be around Stenhouse anymore. They backed out, and he had no help, and so he dropped because everyone else kind of just abandoned him. Like I can't remember what the race was, but I'm assuming he's trying to make a move on the bottom, and the bottom just fades, which we've seen before. It could have been one of the situations. If anyone out there watched the duels over, come on. But if you did,
somebody has to come on.
Us, right. They're just making stuff up. I didn't watch the duels over. I watched a lot of races over. God help me, but I couldn't do this. Move on to duel 2, and we can double back. But final word on this: we kind of talked about the guys we like lap leader wise. These are the guys that are obvious people. I like the cheaper options. You seem to like Jones and Reddick a little bit more than I do. I'm kind of in this Newman, Custer, McDowell range. I probably will flirt with Ty Dillon here. And then people know the guys I like up front. Anything you want to add to that?
Let's see. I'll probably be overweight on the field with Custer.
We're going to have the mods kick Vanilla Face 305 out for disparaging the Spanish language. It's your warning. It's your warning. I don't really know. He had that one song where they redid it like 60s pop song. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. I'm an old man. Let's go to duel 2.
Oh, and in terms of lineup, I'm running 8 lineups tonight in both duels, and then I have I think I have 6 on FanDuel, somewhere around there. Like I said, I'm mainly focusing on the races tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday.
All right, who is going to? And if this isn't big enough spreadsheet wise, people please let me know, and I'll make it a little bit bigger. I see the lap leaders coming from the fronts. Byron, Wallace, Harvick, Dillon, Elliott. What are your thoughts on who could now? It's probably kind of dangerous considering Byron, considering the data for pole sitters has been pretty bad. You can look through previous dual races. Where is that sheet at? It's somewhere buried in here. But you can look through and you'll see that previous pole sitters have not had really strong performances. There it is again. If you listen to my video, I went through it. So be careful if you roster William Byron. He could do, I mean, we're pretty sure Bowman's going to the back. I'm not completely sold on that for Byron, but it could happen.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so where do you stand on this crew? Is there someone outside of this crew that you think is going to lead laps?
I imagined that we're going to, wait a minute. No, I just X'd out. I think we're going to see Harvick lead a good portion of this race.
Yeah, Rodney Childers tweeted that car is awesome, basically, and that they had a right rear go down in qualifying. Otherwise, they would be on the front row. So,
and if it's not him, it's going to be Elliott. Those are the 2 guys I see leading. Maybe Keselowski later.
I really shouldn't have. I don't know why I put Austin Dillon here. Austin Dillon's not going to lead laps. I'm not watching him lead laps, but yeah, Elliott and Harvick seem like the 2 guys. Bubba Wallace could, but I just don't see this race where Bubba Wallace is out front the entire time and then hangs on for the win. I see him going backwards. And remember that rule, if they go backwards, they're just not going to be in the optimal lineup. And I think Wallace, end of the day, goes backwards. William Byron, probably 2, also slides backwards. So I have no problem taking those guys out, or at least limiting my exposure to them.
How far back do you think Bubba falls?
Not too far. I mean, he's been pretty good. He'll hang around. But at the end of the race, I just don't see him. I mean, it depends. He'll need support from all of his Toyota pals, but there's Kyle and Truex is back there. I imagine he'll finally get up there at some point. But I don't know how much JGR is really going to try to push through their 5th car. I don't know. I think he's around a 3rd to 5th place car or much worse, but I don't think he's any better than that.
I agree. I see him. I mean, I think everybody's going to get like 2 fast laps throughout the field of the guys that actually matter. And if Bubba drops to 4th, I mean, look, if he drops to 4th, I would have
Corey LaJoy will probably just start making fun of us for playing DFS
again. Yeah.
No one is ever going to let him down for his iRacing shenanigans. All respect gone. Line up on the he didn't line up in the grid correctly.
He wasn't supposed to qualify, and then he qualified.
He wasn't supposed to qualify, and so he qualifies, and so he gets scored from a place where he doesn't even. And his response is, "Don't bet on video games." All right, Corey. Thanks. Cool. All right, whatever.
Yeah, he's a loser.
Let's follow the damn rules. Just don't qualify. All right. Anyway, I interrupted. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say he could just read what NASCAR wants him to do. It's not that hard. I like Kurt Busch a ton.
Really?
Yeah. Let me look. What do I have him at? How many?
He's 8,600. He's starting 7th. But he could win. He could finish in the top 3. I think he's just a little bit slower than that. And I just don't see him being that efficient. So I'm not crazy about it. Again, he reminds me a lot of that Larson play or who's that other driver in Duel 1? But basically lining up almost in the same spot. He's a little bit cheaper. You can get a little contrarian with Kurt Busch.
And I'm trying to look at who legit has a top 10 car. And if you want to argue that, we could argue Bubba, Harvick, Elliott, Kurt, Kyle, Ryan, Briscoe, Keselowski, and Truex. I mean, those would be my guys that I would assume have a top 10 car.
I think Buescher can be in that conversation.
Okay.
I wouldn't even. He's got 3 top 10s in dual races. We know he's got top 10s in regular plate races. Whether the car is mechanically as sound as the others, it probably isn't. But in this style of race, he's equal with his skill, his approach. I don't believe he is too far off from the guys that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I got him for around 11th, so it wouldn't work for me.
Why 11th? What? Who's finishing ahead of him?
Well, the guys I just listed off. I don't think
Kaz Gralla finishing ahead of him.
Yes. I think he finishes 10th. I think
What?
because Kaz has to race into this race, and he's going back to the Gragson thing I said earlier. Gregson's going to be run around like a bull in a china shop with a car that's not even welded correctly together. I mean,
it was fine in practice, wasn't it?
He only did 4 laps, so I don't know. They only did single car runs.
Yeah.
And I was saying in my video, Gone has even mentioned, and this is back when I had Sirius, Gone has mentioned how often they had mechanical issues at the plate tracks that he ran these last 2 years. They just got lucky, and it either happened at the end of the race or 2 years ago in a duel, he had a brake rotor like crack open. And so he said if for whatever reason he would have hit the brakes at full speed, if there was a yellow or something, it would have just ripped.
When are you going to hit brakes at full speed at a plate track anyway?
Well, if there's this ain't
that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
If you are going 200 miles per hour and you hit the brakes at full speed, you're a moron.
Well, not locking up.
Magically slow down. No, if you slam the brakes at 200 miles per hour, bad things happen to your car besides brake rotors breaking. Of course, that could happen, but I'm not going to sit here because I've run a couple iRaces and pretend. But I generally know that driving 200 miles per hour and slamming on the brakes under any circumstance is a bad idea.
Yeah, just stay in it. Maybe that's why all the ARCA drivers just say screw it.
You just got to drive through the smoke like a cold trickle.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Or Lightning McQueen, climb up on the fence, or do a Newman and fly through the air to avoid getting hit by more people.
All right. So you like Gralla better than – how far do you have Gralla going forward?
I just have him finishing 9th. So I'm not high on
talking about him then.
Because I said he's going to finish ahead of Buescher. I said he's finishing ahead of Buescher. I never said he was a great play.
What are we doing? Okay, how far do you got Briscoe going?
I have him getting to 7th.
Okay, so he's not that. Let's see. So Gragson is definitely the wild card you got to consider. We know that Cope is not racing, Gase is not racing, McLeod's not racing. Smithley, if you want to get crazy, who knows though? I mean, the Rick Ware cars aren't terrible.
I thought he was an MBM car.
Is he in? Oh, he is in
MBM. The 13th. Yeah.
I mean, all those call-alone cars have to race it, don't they?
Yeah, this is my way of thinking. Because Timmy Hill's in the first duel, and Timmy Hill has no funding. At least Smithley has funding. If Timmy doesn't make the 500, I would assume Long says screw it and tells Smithley to do whatever it takes to get into the race. And that would mean finishing ahead of Kaz and Gragson. So that's why I said earlier, if there's going to be a wreck between these guys racing to get in, it's going to be this one.
You think so? Yeah. Well, I still think there's some Ty Dillon possibilities. But yeah, no, this one definitely has. But so with the other one, I see the wrecks happening if it happens with Ty Dillon and Austin Cindric, that's going to be in a spot that potentially messes the entire race up. Mm-hmm. We'll get to Alfredo in a second. But here, if Gragson, Smithley, and Gralla do something stupid, I think that's going to be generally towards the back of the pack. Now, you're probably going to have BJ and that crew way back, and then at the back of the front pack, which could be around 15th to 18th, that's where you're going to have Gralla, Gragson, and Smithley possibly dicing it up. And so if they do wreck, they don't sabotage the field. I could see Dillon, though, and Cindric getting into a hairy situation around cars that don't want to be in hairy situations.
Yeah, and I would see it as if they're going to do something stupid, because I imagine we're going to see him ride the wall when it's late into the race if we don't have a caution. And so it would probably be somebody throwing it into the corner on the bottom and then coming up not being clear or something. That's why I don't see them taking out really anybody other than themselves.
Yeah.
So.
But that's still going to be enough because the Gragson ownership will be higher than it should be, likely. Smithley probably won't. And we can't do 25thly, unfortunately, because it's not a 25-car field. So Vanilla Face is saying 22ndly. Doesn't quite work as well, but, I mean, we get the point.
Mm-hmm.
Smithley probably won't be that popular. I don't think Growler is going to be popular at all. So if Growler wrecks, fine. I'm not playing him. Alfredo is interesting. He doesn't have to race his way in. He doesn't have to do really that well, but it would behoove him to get some practice because he doesn't even have that much Xfinity plate racing experience. Mm-hmm. These cars are probably easier to drive than the Xfinity are at the plate tracks. And I mean, no, it's not. They are easier to drive, and you're driving with more skilled people. So. I mean, compared to Xfinity, this is kind of an easier race, I would say, for Alfredo. Mm-hmm. But we don't have anything that we could compare him to what Michael McDowell has done in the past, and that's usually around 10th place. So I think that's a 10th, 11th place spot for Alfredo. I think is fine. I think Buescher has a little bit more upside, but obviously you're paying for it.
Is Reagan in the first duel?
Reagan's in this one, and I expect Reagan to go backwards.
Yeah.
Remember, got to go forward. There's no way Reagan's getting the top 5. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no way. The reason I brought that up is I think he just does the same thing as
with him.
Yeah. I think they do the same thing.
I don't know if they're going to be able to coordinate a lot of this stuff.
That's not hard. It's 2 cars out of your stable.
Yeah, but if they go single file and they're all up against the wall, then you're not going to be able to do that. But then again, if they go single file and they're all up against the wall, then it doesn't matter. Everybody's just riding.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it doesn't matter if you
go single file and you got Gragson trying. Like, what do you do? He is not going to have a car that's going to be able to go down and side draft and make moves. If this thing goes single file early, Gragson's it's over.
Mm-hmm.
The dream is dead.
Well, that's how. Gaughan's races have been. He has, at least in duels, he hasn't raced up in the front. He just kind of ends up racing who
the
needs
last of the guys in the back, or one of those knuckleheads wrecks in the back, or has a mechanical failure before he does. All right, so Harvick and Elliott look like the guys at the top. If you want to get cute, there's Wallace, there's Byron, there's Dylan. Did you want you like Kurt? Did you think Kurt was going to lead laps?
Off my mind, I don't. I have him leading 2.
What about Blaney? Really. Blaney getting up there?
Blaney.
I think Blaney's a fine play, regardless of whether he leads laps or not. What's the old Optimo look at? The optimizer. See, he's got Byron. I need to adjust that. That's still. Is he still getting in there? Yeah, I might dial Byron down a smidge here. So I don't like it. Changing my mind. I don't think I like William Byron all that much in this race. So I'll let the optimizer spit something out. But I like Blaney, and it didn't take Blaney. Blaney's too expensive. It liked Harvick. It likes Elliott. It likes Brad Keselowski, Buescher, and Chase Briscoe. That's not bad. Can't argue. I mean, can these guys, other than Byron, Harvick, yeah, I think he goes forward and gets a top 3 finish. Same with Elliott. Keselowski's going forward. Buescher's going forward in my book. I don't know about Briscoe.
Let's see. I want to see what it says here, but I really like what it did the last time. That's a good example of the lineups that I have created, not including Byron, and take out a few guys and replace them with other ones. But that's how I'm building these lineups.
I think a safer pivot from Briscoe, and this is what was mentioned, Alfredo would be a safer, might not be optimal though. I mean, if you're thinking cash, I would go Alfredo over Briscoe. And I mean, at the bottom, these are all really risky, but Alfredo's probably the furthest back that has a little bit of upside. I love them. Well, Buescher's probably already in it. All right, we get Byron out, and Austin Dillon slides in. That doesn't make me feel much better at all. I need to dial him down, too. Get that guy out of my lineup. let me just exclude him. Say, it ain't gonna happen, folks. Get him out of here.
Oh man, no love for the Dillon brother.
It's just he has to go forward. And
he finished. I bet if he finishes
3 scenarios, he gets finishes first, second, or third. There's a lot of scenarios where he goes backwards. And at $8,000, he cannot go backwards.
You're gonna not like the 3-car at Daytona.
I'm not falling for your trap. Don't even try to set that up.
I mean, RCR burn there.
I know what you're trying to do. I'm just going to keep on moving forward.
I am
Go back to Byron. Get Byron out of the lineup. I don't believe in William Byron. Take him out as well. Let's run it one more time and see what this thing spits out. So we've got truck practice. Chandler Smith, fastest on the board. I think he finished 3rd last year in the Talladega.
Racist
Johnny Sauter. Drew Dollar from the ARCA series. Dark Match 3-car.
I can't believe Davis is going full-time this year.
Davis who? Spencer Davis?
Yeah, Spencer Davis.
We'll see. Let's see how long that money lasts.
And then Norm Benning. Norm Benning's going to go full-time this year.
And we'll see. So you got Harvick, Elliott, Kurt Busch. That's pretty good.
Let's see. What did it give you
I
there?
like a little bit low ownership of that Kurt Busch, too. I think of that it's very tempting here.
I don't like that Alfredo play at all. I'm not on Alfredo.
What? It's $6,000. Who else in this price range is better? We have $200 left, so you can go up to $6,200. It's just a value play.
I like Kaz. I think in that situation, Kaz could get more raw points.
I have enough.
Well, if you can't afford him, change the lineup and get him in there.
I like Alfredo over Kaz. Yeah. If we got to say they got to go forward, who's more likely to go forward?
Well, Kaz has to race in. He wants to be as far away as Gregson.
And he just has to. He doesn't have to outrun the bear. He has to outrun you. And so he's not really trying to get a top 10. He's just got to beat Gregson, who could be like they might know in lap 3, like, oh yeah, he's nothing. So then it's him versus Smithley.
Yeah,
we could know 5 laps in, Grala's in. His competition is Smithley and Gregson.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, Alfredo maybe gets 4 positions. I can't see it any higher than that. Maybe as a value that would work.
So here, and I'll pull this up, and I can't believe you're making me do this. So we will look up Brent. No, I don't even think I need to go that far. We could probably look at. Let's look for Brendan Gaughan. Do you think Gaughan has ever got a top 10 in a dual race?
No. I haven't looked it up.
He's got a top 15 at a dual race.
I think he's probably 14. That's probably his best.
So if he can't do it, 16th or no 17th. No, what is it? 17th. If he can't do it, then why would Gregson do it? 15th. Oh, 12th. Watch out, folks. Oh. Tearing up the world. 17th. Why is Gregson is what do I got him at? I think I gave him 12th. That's just too much.
Oh man.
So I got him at 16th. I have a brain in my head. He's still getting 6X, and it could work. It just depends on the line. The optimizer is saying you don't need it. I mean, the optimizer obviously likes Alfredo because he's getting 37 points compared to Gregson's 33. Gregson's going to hit value more than likely, but does he score enough raw points?
I might have
Works
to.
if for whatever reason. I mean, I guess if you're going with Truex and Keselowski and Blaney, then yeah, let me lock those guys in and see what kind of lineup it goes with. But imagine if you do if you're going to chase place differential and you're going with Blaney and you're going with Keselowski and you're going with Truex, then I imagine the optimizer is going to say, well, to make this work, we're going to have to put in Owen Gregson. That's my optimizer computer voice.
That's the voice you gave it.
That's give it something a little bit more sexy, but I just wanted to be more, don't worry about those things, computer. You're just supposed to focus on the numbers.
I guess in summary, I think Gregson's a trap play because everybody's talking good about him in comparison.
What are we talking good? If you're saying good things about him, then you're not doing it correctly. If you're saying it's a play because of place differential, maybe possible narrative or whatever, that's fine. But the car is not good. He is not necessarily a good driver. I mean, it makes for a great write-up because there's a bunch of different stories that you can tell in your little blurb. Like, you can go, hey, he won last year's Daytona Xfinity race, or hey, there's this Beard Motorsports narrative, or it's an easy one to write, and so you write it, and like, cool, there's one less paragraph I have to do. But as far as DFS potential, I don't know. So yeah, you get sucked into the Gragson hole if you want to take these expensive guys. That's not a terrible lineup, though. But probably that we got Alfredo back in here again, but I could see that being a popular lineup. Harvick leading this thing, and then you chase the place differential. You get a little bit out of Alfredo. I still think that breaks through the rules. I think only one time did we get an optimal lineup that didn't have like 5 cars inside the top 7. Yeah, there's no way that I don't think Alfredo or Gragson both get a top 10. That being said, I don't think that we've had an optimal lineup in any of the duels where you only had 4 top 10 drivers. There might be one. I really want to look through all these right now. No, I don't. Not right now. What do you think about that optimal?
I'm pretty sure that's what a lot of people are going to make. I think that's the direction a lot of people are going to go to. So I don't think it's optimal, but I think it'll be very popular.
All right, let's go really stupid. Anybody out there want to do something stupid? Let's just lock Gragson in and see where it goes from there. So if you're building and maybe some people will do this. Some people might, like when they're building their lineups, because the optimizer isn't that crazy from how people hand build in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you build with, I want Harvick and I want Gragson, there's only so many directions you can go in. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what the optimizer does, just to a perfect scale.
Well, especially right off the bat, if you're paying for Truex, Keselowski, Harvick, I mean, you're gonna head right towards the Gragson train.
Yep. And we'll do the Gralla Alfredo next and see what the what's the thing called in Big? What's the name of that? You know the movie Big? Please tell me you've seen the movie Big.
No, that's out of my head. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're
I mean, I know that I'm borderline boomer anymore, but you haven't seen Big?
I don't know what that is.
Sarnak. I think it's Sarnak. I think it's Sarnak was the name of the. You got to watch Big, man. You not have a childhood?
1988. That's.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched a crap ton of westerns and old movies, but I've never even seen Big come up in anything. But I guess I got to now.
Let's see, Big fortune teller. Let me see. People, can you guys get to the DFS? Sorry, I gotta look it up. It's if you guys know, Zoltar. All right, so the optimizer, maybe it's called Zoltar. So if we lock in Gragson, it goes that same lineup, but a little bit of a tweak. Instead of Alfredo, we get Gralla and Elliott, and so I guess that kind of technically answers. I think someone asked. No, that doesn't answer that one.
Well, oh yeah.
So there is another spin on it. That's really interesting. I didn't think that could be. That's not terrible, because top 10. I think Gralla can get a top 10. You might be able to get low ownership. You're building that lineup. You doing that one?
Don't think I do, but very similar.
I could see both these guys with the top 5. I don't think that's a stretch. These are all top 5 drivers. Top 10, and then just your straight value who does just enough. That's not. Write it down, folks. There you go.
It's over. You can stop watching now.
Split the $10,000, $700. There's not that many people watching. So actually,
man, I can't believe the Clash didn't.
5 people watching. Guess what? Y'all just won $2,000.
I can't believe the Clash didn't split. One guy took it down, then it was tied.
Yeah, and that was the optimal lineup. He's won.
Yeah, I mean that was impressive.
He's a pretty good player. I always see that. I'm like, oh, there's that guy again. There's another win for him.
It's very impressive.
Smart. Yeah, I wasn't going to play Tyler Reddick, but looking back, the low downforce, Tyler Reddick was a monster. I mean, he was just wheeling that thing. Really excited. Awesome race. I'm really excited moving forward, even though I don't know what the heck to make of the dirt and what's going to happen with that. But we'll save that for another show. We want to see that
for 2 weeks.
Lock in Gralla and Alfredo. I'm assuming we're going to get Harvick. Now, again, remember, this is all locked in on my projections, so you got to change your projections around. If you make a file, make a copy. Just because it's saying this, remember, it's just based on my projections. So this is not etched in stone by any means. This is, assuming that Harvick is an awesome. If Harvick has a bad day, then I'll window. Like he did. Loved Harvick on Tuesday night, or was it this Tuesday night, and that didn't work out very well.
Are they watching the same race?
Dirt completely just ruined Harvick's race.
Yeah, he got spun out of turn one time, and they were acting like, oh, he just spun out. But like you can tell, he enters turn 1 by that white wall, and like everybody's acting stupid in front of him. And he checks up, and he just gets dumped by somebody. Obviously, we didn't see it.
So if we lock in Alfredo, I don't know about this one. So we got Alfredo, we got Gralla, and Buescher. We got Keselowski, and then Harvick and Elliott. Let's just take out, because I don't want this. I don't know if, well, I think they're fine. If I could see really just going with one, what do you think? If you had to build one lineup, would it be a Harvick Elliott lineup, or would it just be one of the two?
It'd be one of the two. If I had to go one.
So let's force the optimizer to take Elliott out, and we'll run it again and see what it does for you, folks. And we'll be wrapping up here in 5 minutes because I've got to fix some lineups and smash through stuff. But I think it's been good. I think we've had a pretty good show so far. Hopefully we're helping people out. If you got any questions, let us know. It's always fun to mess around with this stuff with the optimizer. There's always the randomizer tab too, which just gives you random crap nonstop. Well, it's going mad right now because the sheet is constantly changing with the optimizer in the background. But when the optimizer cools out, it'll stop doing this. But this is just always a fun little thing if you're having some fun.
All right, let's see. Stenhouse, Wallace, DeBenedetto. I hate Wallace on FanDuel. That would be horrible because he's going to lose you so many place differentials. So I would not like Wallace.
I don't hate Wallace, but I won't have much of him.
On FanDuel?
Oh, well, I don't know. Actually, I don't know if FanDuel is.
Not on FanDuel. No, come on. No way.
I don't know what the numbers are on FanDuel. I just realized that the randomizer needs to be tweaked, but whatever. Too late to fix the randomizer now. But it basically does what you need.
If I had to pick one of those guys on FanDuel, it'd probably be DeBenedetto.
Harvick, Kurt Busch, Gralla, Keselowski. That's not bad either. I can see all 5 of those guys with the top 10. Kurt Busch is going to differentiate you a little bit, I believe. I don't see a lot of ownership because he's kind of in no man's land. So that might be a sharp GPP play. Alfredo might even be able to sneak into the top 10. It's not bad.
Are we missing out by not really focusing on Kyle? Because I'm not high on him either. But
well, so again, one of the reasons why I'm worried about Kyle is just the like we were talking about earlier. If he just doesn't like the feeling, he's just going to back out. He knows it's a meaningless race. He doesn't really need to win. I mean, he's already got his meaningless win of the week. Doesn't really want to mess up his car, especially if he's happy with the car. In my DraftKings video, which I don't know when they'll post this, but did you know that in the last decade, Kyle Busch did not win a plate race? During the teens, he did not win a plate race.
He got wrecked a crap load of times leading.
His plate race wins were like, I think, 2008, maybe 2009, but 0 last decade.
The 10s, that's crazy.
That's what, 40 races?
Yeah, that's like 40, something like that.
So, I don't know. I'm not crazy about Kyle. He's been fine in a couple of them, but I don't know. I think that'll wrap it up. We got any more questions as we we probably might. I mean, if you like Kurt Busch, then maybe you like Kyle Busch. It's tougher to build with him. And so I guess you're going to drive in a different direction.
It's interesting. I don't have to mess around, but I don't have any Kyle right now. I think he'll do the same thing that we just talked about there. But yeah, I didn't know he wrecked that much, at least in 2000.
I'm not saying that he wrecked that much. I'm just saying he never won.
Well, no, let's look at his finishes right fast. I guarantee you a lot of them are wrecks.
Oh yeah, well, a lot of them are wrecks. Well, I don't have it in this sheet where I have like the tells you how much they wreck. but we can do the opposite, which is how many times does Kyle Busch? I don't know, man. I mean, he's got wrecks, but overall his average finish is pretty strong.
Oh, that's
I mean, it's all or nothing. You got three top fives here, and then just terrible. And then you've got these top fives, top tens, and then just terrible. But again, that's
plate racing.
A lot of drivers, and also I mean, the only people that's not the case for is a Busher, but Busher can't do that. He just needs to get his top 10 and be satisfied and happy with it. Same thing with kind of like a Ryan Preece. But you get to the top tier, it's all or nothing, and you see that reflected in the stats.
Yeah. All right, well, guys, we're gonna wrap it up there because it's been an hour, and we need to give Pierce some time to get his lineups. I'm sure he'll be doing the same thing for me tomorrow as I get.
I can bounce out, and you can stay here if you want to keep rolling.
I think we've said everything, and I mean, I know Tyler Reddick's going to the rear because he's changing his transmission, but
so check this one out. I didn't think I was gonna that would happen. I didn't think that. So tomorrow at 3:00, so I might be a little late in our stream. ESPN Sports Map Radio, whatever that is. What is Sports Map Radio? Sounds important.
I would not say anything other than it sounds important on here.
Oh, is it not? Is it bad?
No, I don't know.
It's got ESPN in it. It's got to be something. Right. I mean, these things are all just, it's before I was like, oh, wow, cool. It's me just going on and saying, please make sure you get onto DraftKings and enter as many contests as possible and just give them your money. That's the whole point. It's promotional nonsense. I just go like, oh, yeah, you got a chance of winning $100,000. Sign up today at DraftKings. Use promo code whatever. But hey, whatever. It's cool. All right.
Anyway, yeah, so you got is that an interview for you? All right, cool. Yeah, I'll let you head out. And thank you guys for watching. Best of luck. We'll talk to you later.